What is up, everybody? We are back live Wednesday MLB DFS picks, lineup advice, strategy. It's live Q&A, FanDuel, DraftKings, and Yahoo. Wednesday, April 13th. Welcome. I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy. It's a solo mission today by myself, but here to answer all of your questions and break down this early main slate on FanDuel, DraftKings, and Yahoo. If you have any questions throughout the show, make sure you throw them in the live chat box to the right of the YouTube screen, and I'll happily answer them. Probably will be here until about 11:20. If you guys have more questions and need to stay longer, we will. But about a 20-minute show. We'll break down the weather situations today. It's one of the first slates where we have some serious weather concerns. And then we have, we'll talk about some top stacks, pitching options, ownership, review some previous slates. So it'll be a good time. So let's get started. And let's see here. So on DraftKings, we actually have a 7-game main slate, now down to a 6-game main slate. First piece of news that we have, St. Louis and Kansas City. That game has been postponed, as you see at the top of the screen here. Game already postponed, which is nice. We get that news out of the way early. FanDuel has a little bit of a larger slate. I think it includes the 3 p.m. games, so keep that in mind if you're building over there as well. And I imagine I'll have to answer this question once again. But there are 2 other games with weather concerns on the slate. So let's go to the weather dashboard, occupyfantasy.com. This is a free tool. Shows you weather for each game on the slate and their impact for right-handed and left-handed batters. And the first game is Boston and Detroit. 45% chance of rain. There might be a delay at some point. Check out Kevin Roth of Roto Grinders, puts out great free work. He expects the game to be played possibly with a delay of some sort. The game that's really dicey, though, is this Cleveland and Cincinnati game. 98% chance of rain, pretty much raining all day there in Cincinnati. And maybe they get a window to play through, but odds are they don't. So for me personally, and I think our plug, which will be out here by 11:30 Eastern, recommending not to play any players from this game, which makes it tough. Cleveland, Cincinnati offered some value today. Cincinnati is a hitter's park, and I think there would be some ownership over there. But I'm personally avoiding that game. It doesn't look like that it's going to get played. And let's see here. So let's pull up the pitcher's dashboard, occupyfantasy.com. Ranks every pitcher based on our Occupy proprietary metric, the OF index. Let's refresh this because we do have ownership in for the early slate. So let's see here. And let's look at the FanDuel main slate. So Eduardo Rodriguez in that Boston game, we'll have to monitor radar pretty closely. Ranks as a top 5 option on the FanDuel slate, top 4 option on the DraftKings slate. Doesn't look like he'll be that popular, I imagine, because of the rain as well. But let's monitor because he is in a pretty decent spot if that weather can hold, and there doesn't look like there's going to be any delays, at least in the first half of the game. As far as the Cleveland-Cincinnati game, we're not high on the pitchers. But, again, those bats were in pretty good spots, and I still think it's somewhere that you have to avoid. All right, let's see here. Let's go back to the DraftKings tab here. Slate starts at 12:20 Eastern, so that's in about an hour and 15 minutes or so. Nice thing about this, sometimes on these early slates, we don't have all of the lineups in, which is generally tough to play with. But we're still waiting on the Nats lineup for some reason as of right now. But every other lineup is in. Not a big problem. So we actually know who's going to play. We can start building our lineups an hour and a half before the slate starts, which is pretty nice. So if we look at the overall context of the slate, just 6 games because, again, that St. Louis game is postponed. And honestly, if you think that Cleveland and Cincinnati game gets postponed, and it sounds like it might be, or at least heavily affected by the weather, now it becomes a 5-game slate. That's a really small slate for MLB DFS, and that changes how we want to approach things. Because, as we've seen before, we talked about this a couple of videos ago. I think it was a live stream on how the size of a slate impacts how much you want to stack in MLB DFS. And generally what we see on slates like this is 5-2-1 winners or 4-3-1 winners, basically a one-off hitter of some kind, whether it's in small field or large field high-risk contest, winning because there's only so many teams on the slate. If one player hits a home run, you probably want him in your lineup. And if no teams go off, then the stacking takes over. So optimally today, 5-2-1 on DraftKings, 4-3-1 on FanDuel. Those are the types of stacks that you want for a 5-game slate. So again, if you have questions, throw them in the chat. We're here till 11:20 a.m. Eastern. We're doing an AM stream, but 11:20 a.m. Eastern. Any questions you have about the slate, MLB DFS in general, or any DFS tactics, throw in the chat. Happily, we'll answer it for you. I think there's a pretty big leverage spot today, and I imagine we'll discuss this again before the end of the show. But the LA Dodgers, let's bring them up here. Playing in Minnesota, Kershaw's on the mound for them, and they're facing Chris Paddock, formerly of the Padres. But the Dodgers lineup, we look at their lineup here. Trey Turner, Mookie Betts. Some of these guys are relatively affordable, especially Justin Turner, Max Muncy, 4,300. I mean, we're used to seeing Muncy at 5K plus on most slates, at least last year. But if we look at the Occupy Fantasy stack dashboard, which again ranks all the stacks, has projected ownership, we see that the Dodgers are projected to be the most popular team on DraftKings by a slight margin over Atlanta. A pretty decent favorite to be the highest owned team on FanDuel based on projected ownership. Yet they rank 8th in our stack dashboard. And the weather there is not great. And I think the betting markets are picking up on that. Their team total has dropped about a quarter of a run since lines have opened, which is never a good thing for offenses. And then we go back to the weather dashboard and we see why. LA at Minnesota, it's 41 degrees in Minnesota. Why they're playing outside baseball games in Minnesota in April, I have no idea. I'll never understand that every single year. But it's 40-degree weather. Look at the air density index. This tells you how thick the air is, and the higher the air density index, the thicker the air is, the harder it is for balls to travel through the air. It's the highest on the slate at 70, right? Consider it, if you think about a scale, 70, 75 is about the highest you'll see in the weather dashboard. We get core slates sometimes in the summertime, it'll drop down to 35 or 40. Average is 55 to 65. When we see 70, that's pretty tough to hit balls out, even if the wind is blowing out like it is today. So as a result, they have the biggest decrease for batters, both right-handed and left-handed, on the entire slate. So for me, seeing a team that's super popular in a game where the betting markets are moving against them and the weather is extremely poor for hitting, I mean, that's an easy fade. Super easy fade for me. I don't think there's a need to play. Definitely not 5-man stack. Maybe if the rest of your lineup is super contrarian, right, you can play some Dodgers. But I ran our lineup builder this morning, which you should check out at occupyfantasy.com. It's the tool I use, tool all of our members use to build up to 150 lineups. Hell, now you can build up to 300 lineups using our optimal lineup criteria, or if you want to hand build, I've been using it for small field contests to see what's possible with different lineups. So putting in some rules today for this early slate, and really didn't get much LA at all. I got 0 LA 5-man stacks. I got, I think, 7% 2-man stacks or 3-man stacks with the Dodgers. So the builder is picking up on it as well, which is great news. So I think there's a lot of leverage in high-risk contests today not playing the Dodgers. All right, 11:10 a.m. 10 more minutes. You guys have questions, throw them in the chat. We'll happily answer them. I know it's a work day for a lot of you, so appreciate you watching, sneaking this in if you're at work watching this. And let's see here. So 11 a.m. Today's Wednesday. We'll have MLB streams or videos tomorrow and Friday. We're off on Saturday for MLB all season. Sunday is Easter. We won't have a video there. But USFL starts on Saturday. Daily Plug will be out probably Saturday morning, maybe Friday night. We'll probably do a video around that as well, so make sure you check it out, occupyfantasy.com. It's included in your membership. No extra cost for USFL, so make sure you're around for that. Super excited about that. We've already seen some huge trends that we're looking to take advantage of in week 1. Can't wait. Football's back. Even if it is spring football, it is back. So if we're not stacking the Dodgers because they're over-owned, we think the field is wrong, who are we stacking instead? Let's go back to the stack dashboard. That's the weather dashboard. Our model loves the Cubs today. And you know what? There's some betting market action that backs that up as well. We see the team total move plus 0.28 runs, about a quarter run increase. Basically the same decrease we saw for the Dodgers. We see an increase of that volume for the Cubs. So only the 8th highest team total. We got a projected ownership of 59% on DraftKings cumulative. That's all 9 batters combined. Just 33% on FanDuel. Where does that rank? Middle of the pack, basically, on DraftKings FanDuel. Man, middle of the pack as well. And why is that? Let's look at the weather dashboard, see if anything sticks out there. Wind not a factor. It is 68 degrees, which is pretty nice for April. pretty neutral impact on the bats. Let's go to the pitchers. They are facing Zach Thompson, who is the worst ranked pitcher in the model today. That probably has a big reason why the Cubs are ranked where they are. And we go to the batters tab, and we just filter in the Cubs. And we see that we have 7 of their 9 batters with an OF index above 5. Anything above 4 is pretty viable for most contest types. Anything 10 or higher is elite. But we just have an all-around solid stack here. 7 guys. I mean, even 8 if you include Jonathan VR, who's batting 8th. But the nice thing is when you see a stack like this, and these are the types of stacks that I love because they offer so much versatility, right? The one issue on DraftKings, at least, they don't have any second base eligible player in the starting lineup today. Their shortstop is ranked pretty low, so that versatility takes a knock. But the fact that they have their 1 through 8 hitters all ranked pretty highly, when we're trying to correlate and maximize correlation for batting order, we can pretty much play any Cub that ranks in this top 8 just because of that flexibility. So I really like seeing that. That's for sure. And by doing that, that allows you to pair them with basically pretty much any other team. And when you have that flexibility, it's a big reason why they're helped being ranked number 1 on the slate today. I do want to check one thing. Let's see here. So I ran the builder earlier, and I'm checking on my side here. And team pair exposure, which is a great data point after you build lineups in the lineup builder. And if I look at the Cubs, the top teams that were paired with them, this is a little insight into my building today. Top teams that were stacked with the Cubs. Let's go to the stack dashboard. Philadelphia, which ranks, let's actually sort by OF index for a change. Number 3, Detroit, middle of the pack. Washington, assuming we have the right lineup, if they ever release their actual lineup, they rank pretty low. Atlanta, Boston, the Mets, it never pairs them with the Dodgers, which is interesting to me. So Philly, Detroit especially pair really well with Chicago. And really the reason I use the builder for this type of method is to see which teams fit well together. Which positions are missing from one stack, which positions are one team really high on. And that's why sometimes you'll see the builder at Occupy Fantasy put together a little bit lower owned team like Washington. They don't rank really highly today, but the guys that do rank highly for them likely fit really well with the Cubs. And while in a vacuum, you may never say, let me play the second lowest stack on the board today, Washington, right? But if you're fully stacking the Cubs, you might find that Washington's one of the better teams to fit with them just based on who ranks highly for Washington and who's missing, which positions are missing from the Cubs lineup. So I really like using the builder for that. Just put in some settings, run 300 lineups, and just see what it's spitting out. You don't have to use 300 lineups. You don't even have to play 150 lineups in a contest. You could be playing 1 lineup. You could be playing 3 lineups. But seeing what's possible and what combinations are being generated is super helpful. And again, if you're not an OccupyFantasy.com lineup builder member, links in the description below. You can always check it out. All right, 6 minutes left. Any questions you have, throw them in the chat. It looks like we're going to be here till 11:20. Not a ton of activity in the chat today. So for those of you just lurking, getting the information, we appreciate you watching for sure. So Chicago, top stack on the board today. Atlanta fits in second. The Prince is in the chat. What's up? Made it on time. Appreciate you as always. Home run call of the day. I think we named all of the Cardinals who did not homer yesterday when Chris and I were live on stream. So let's see here. If I filter out the Cubs here, just look at the total teams. I think Bryce Harper is probably the best option. Let's go to isolated power here. Let's sort here. So we got Buxton, Harper, Schwarber, Patrick Wisdom. Wisdom would be an interesting call, batting 7th for the Cubs. And see, Buxton gets the weather decrease, so that's why he's ranked a little bit lower than Harper, just looking at this. I'll go Bryce Harper. 333 projected ISO, pretty much neutral weather situation. Number 1 overall in the model today. So we'll go Bryce Harper as our home run call. And let's see. Doesn't look to be too popular, so that's great. It's great news for us, especially at 6K on DraftKings. No one's going to play him really there. That's why we see him we project him for 0%. I'm sure he'll be 1 to 3%. But that's why at 6K, when people are trying to pay up for these other players, no one's going to play Bryce Harper today, which means he's a great high-risk play. And again, that's our home run call for the day. All right, we talked about stacks. Let's see if there's any FanDuel values that stick out today. FanDuel main slate. we'll look at FanDuel price under 3,000. We did this yesterday. It just so happened that player that was the best value yesterday was also ranked the highest in the model, Marcell Ozuna. Incredible game, had like 35 DraftKings points. But you'll see the Cubs just absolutely litter the top of the board when you look at FanDuel values today. Just incredibly affordable. Ortega leading off 2,400. Amazing play. We got Wisdom, Suzuki, who's had a hot start, transitioning over from Asia into the major leagues. Schwindel, who else? Hayward. I mean, we literally got, I forgot Hap too. 5 Cubs in the top 6 of FanDuel values. So load up on Cubs if you're playing on the FanDuel slate today. All right, let's go back to pitchers, and this is how we'll close out the show, which pitchers we're looking at today. This is the FanDuel main slate. Kershaw leads the way, and for the same reason we don't like LA bats, we like LA pitching, and we like both pitchers in this game. I know Paddock ranks pretty low, but, you know, if the Dodgers are going to be popular and they fail, that means Paddock likely succeeds. And if you're looking for a cheap number 2 pitcher on DraftKings, Paddock fits the bill from a high-risk perspective, obviously. The Dodgers do have a team total over 5, but it is moving down. We know the weather's in his favor, so Paddock as a SP2, pretty decent option. As far as FanDuel, who we like is the best pitcher, remember, FanDuel doesn't reward great performances as much as DraftKings does because DraftKings reduces points for hits allowed, walks allowed, right? FanDuel, you get the points for the quality start. The win bonus is a little bit more important there. So it's got to be Kershaw, I would think. And highest projected ownership on DraftKings, second highest projected ownership on FanDuel. But at 9,100, he has the highest money line outside of Max Fried, who is minus 230. You'll see here, Max Fried. But minus 167 for Kershaw, second highest on the FanDuel slate. Ranks highest in the model. Third highest strikeout per innings per pitch projection. But it gets that 14% weather boost, and that's massive. So I'll say Kershaw is the best pitching option today for FanDuel and DraftKings. But a lot of guys in this range. Let's see. Any other values? Yeah, Eduardo, and that's the big question mark today. Detroit and Boston, we have to monitor that weather up until lock. Will they get the first 5-6 innings in without question and not impact Rodriguez's start? And then also the Cleveland-Cincinnati game, we'll have to check here after the slate or after the stream ends. Looks extremely unlikely to play today. And again, not that we're playing Lodolo or McKenzie probably, but we would likely play those bats. So Cincinnati and Cleveland. Just to recap everything today, St. Louis and Kansas City already postponed. Cincinnati and Cleveland looks extremely likely. I wouldn't play anybody from that game. That effectively reduces this slate to a 5-game slate, which is pretty interesting from a strategy standpoint. So, question in the chat, thoughts on Eovaldi? Yeah, he's the number 3 ranked pitcher, but he's in the same boat as Eduardo Rodriguez, where that weather could impact him. We'll have to monitor it up until lock. Not a bad option. He's ranked top 3 in the model. We do prefer Kershaw and Scherzer, and I see why. The 8,500 price tag a little bit cheaper than Kershaw, but I would try to find the $600 to get up to Kershaw on FanDuel just because of that weather uncertainty with Eovaldi, and he has the lower money line. So, all right, that'll do it for this video. Appreciate you watching. Again, we'll be back Thursday and Friday with either a pre-recorded video or a live stream for the MLB DFS slates. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, get notified when we go live. Upload any new videos. Give us a thumbs up if you appreciate the MLB content. Any further questions about this slate, MLB strategy in general, or any other sport, join our Discord. Click the join button below this video, OccupyFantasy.com/Discord. Chat with other members of the OccupyFantasy.com community or with the staff. We're in there all the time. Again, I mentioned it in the middle of the show, USFL starts this week, the Spring Football League. DraftKings put up contests yesterday. We will be providing a daily plug. We already see some big edges for the early slate, so make sure you're on board. It's included in OccupyFantasy.com membership, and I can't wait to do it. Our writer, Chris, will be doing those plugs, and we'll be doing some live streams as well. So I'm Brian for Occupy Fantasy. Appreciate you listening, and good luck on this early MLB DFS slate.